Hi, yeah, I'm Lou Nosbod, and I am an executive producer and line producer for Fausti Films. I would say I got into producing basically by default. And gradually you find yourself being pulled into doing kind of more and more stuff on set, which is kind of the preparation stuff. So not I actually hate appearing on camera. If you ever venture onto a film set, you do not sit down and you basically just get involved in absolutely anything. There's always somebody who needs some help. So I would guess I started off almost more like a runner and then gradually became aware that all these wonderful creatives can't organise themselves for toffee, and so they need somebody who can organise them, and that's really where I came in.
Jim Morrison, Sid Vicious, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, and Elvis Aaron Presley. What do all these celebrity deaths have in common? Dead celebrities. Who doesn't want to be famous? Dead celebrities.
I mean, one of the biggest jobs for a producer really is to free up the creatives and allow them to do what they need to do. So be that director, camera people, whatever. So it is actually about facilitating an atmosphere of, I would say calm. I don't think calm is the actual phrase for a film set, which can be quite frenetic, but making sure really that there is space for people to do the work they need to do, and taking off all of the kind of stressful things that to be honest, if you didn't do them you'd notice, but when done well they just kind of like float under the radar really. So yeah, I think it's I mean, the interesting thing on a film set is that it's quite nice when the cameras roll because everyone has to stop and be calm, but at that point as a producer your mind is ticking over into like, what do we need to do next, how do we actually set up the next kind of sort of set or what have you, or the next kind of scene, so that the director can come in and kind of organise what he needs to do. First film I produced for Fausti Films was a short called Dying Seconds. The story is essentially a policeman in America gets called to a high school to investigate a break-in. So he's the first responder on the scene, and he has to deal with some issues from his past, shall we say. So that was an interesting project because it was about 3 minutes long, I think. But we only had access to location for one day, which sounds a long time, but obviously we weren't necessarily the fine oiled machine that we are now, so we had all these kind of issues around moving all the equipment to different locations in the school that we were filming in, trying to talk security guards into letting us into rooms that they really shouldn't have done, but we managed to persuade them. So it was an interesting challenge because we had to do it in that one day. So for producing point of view, it was a logistical nightmare, both before we got on set and actually on set, and making sure that everything was packed away and kind of out of the school by the time that security came to close up. So I've been producing films for Fausti Films for about 5 or 6 years now. So our first film was Dying Seconds, and then after that we moved on to ZAF, which was a much more ambitious project. That was very interesting because we managed to secure access to an old World War II airbase that was virtually derelict and was going to be pulled down for housing. So it was interesting because we would go there and film. I think we did it over 4 weekends. And we would film the first weekend and then do a kind of recce for what we're going to do the next week to make sure everything was organised. And then we'd go back and discover that the particular bit we'd decided to film in, they'd built like a barrier around it. We weren't allowed in that section or what have you. I mean, they knew we were there, but we just kind of said we'll fit around whatever work they're doing. We had to get more creative, and I actually think we ended up with a better film because we had to solve so many problems as we were going along. After ZAF, we filmed, I believe, The Pyramid. Which the USP of The Pyramid was it was the only film shot entirely on a balcony. So after that we filmed the Ingress tapes.
There's a few things I'd like to get off my mind before I go. I did 5 more people on top of the 6 that I told you about. I'm always surprised there aren't more murderers about, because killing someone isn't hard. And this was often how it was. You'd do something like this, which to the average person probably seems like really major, and it just happened. And then, nothing. The sky doesn't fall in. The sun rises the next day, and you just get up and you do what you normally do.
That was shot on Super 8. So that was an interesting project because obviously you never know what's coming out of the camera until you get the roll of developed film back again. And then we shot Dead Celebrities, which was probably our most successful short out of all the shorts we've had. Played at over sort of 40 festivals, I believe. And that one was filmed in many bathrooms across the globe, actually. So some of it was filmed in Belgium, some of it was filmed in Austria, Eastbourne and Kent. So yeah, we filmed in some very exotic locations, and that was a really fun project because the main story is a guy who's slightly sort of psychotic and sort of believes he should be famous. So we had a lot of fun with wigs and dressing up, and there was a lot of sort of strange, bizarre makeup and stuff to do. By far our biggest production to date has been our feature film Exit, which is currently on the circuit, just to get a plug in there. So with Exit, I was both an executive producer and a line producer. I mean, on the actual set of Exit, once we got to the set of Exit, we lived there. So there were about 15 of us throughout the day, and often 7, 8 of us at night. I don't think I've ever worked as hard in that week in my life. I actually have a Fitbit, and the Fitbit showed that several days I only got sort of 3.5 hours sleep. So literally, you're going to bed well after midnight. You're waking up the next morning, making sure that everyone's got tea, coffee, bacon sandwiches, picking up the talent. At one point I had to walk down the high street and ask all the pubs if we could film sex in their toilet, which they weren't too happy about, apart from one pub who was absolutely fantastic, just opened the doors to us and just let us do our thing. So pretty much at the moment what we're doing is promoting Exit, which came out in January 2020 at the Horror on Sea Film Festival. Was the world premiere, and the American premiere was in South Texas Underground Film Festival. I think first of all I would visit as many sets as possible and make yourself as useful as possible. So as I say, I started off really running and doing the kind of all the jobs that no one actually wants to do, and then gradually built up to doing the much more organisational and getting everything collated together. I think there's no substitute for experience. It's not something that you can actually learn. Obviously there are producer courses, but I think there's no substitute for going on a set and actually trying to organise the chaos that can ensue. Okay, so you can follow us on all of our social media channels, which is Fausti_Films. That's Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. You can visit our website, which is faustifilms.com, and on there we post our upcoming screenings. So the screenings that we have at present, in the UK there is Paracinema, which is in Derby in Derbyshire. I believe the date for that is November at the moment, because of the pandemic it's been a bit fluid. We are also a finalist at Brighton Rocks, so we're very excited to see what happens with that, but that's down obviously in Brighton in Sussex. In the States we have Twisted Dreams Film Festival in Milwaukee, which is a festival that's shown a lot of our shorts, and we're thrilled to have got into Genre Blast, which is in West Virginia, who again have shown pretty much everything we've made, so massive thanks to that team. We do have a few other things in the offing, but I'm not allowed to talk about them at the moment, but go on our social media, check out our posts, and more will be revealed soon. So thank you very much for interviewing me. Stay safe everybody and be creative.